You ever notice how every time the gaming industry gets caught doing something objectively indefensible, they immediately then reframe the entire argument? Not did this happen, not this is bad, but who's really trying to censor who? Today I want to talk about Tim Sweeney. He's the CEO of Epic Games. You know, Fortnite? Yeah, his company owns that. And his company also owns Unreal Engine, which has been used for Clair Obscur, Arc Raiders, The Witcher 4, and many other games. So this story is kind of important because if one side ends up being true, a lot of this falls apart in a big storm of problems. And somehow, again, this conversation is also being dragged away from actual harm and into culture war nonsense noise because of the context behind all of it. I should state ahead of time, I don't fall into either camp here per se. I am just presenting what's happening and then I'll maybe pick a side, we'll see. But as you'll see from what I present, this entire thing is leading to a potential scenario where boycotts could happen based on what is being said here. So I'll try my best here to make this digestible cause this is an utter mess and that's putting it lightly. And it doesn't help that Tim Sweeney is also blocking creators left and right for speaking out against his comments here, which are leading to posts like this with thousands of likes that will only paint him even worse. Like I said, this is how boycotts start. So you're likely aware how Grok, the Twitter AI companion, has been getting used by users all over to take the photos of people and then place them in, say, bikinis or borderline naked pretty much. A lot of women especially are really mad about this because they believe that Grok is essentially taking away their right to consent by allowing people the option to quite literally undress them against their will. As The Independent reported here for you to see, this cause for concern has hyperdrive the notion to ban X or Twitter effective immediately, pretty much in the future in places like the UK due to this happening, and actually that's already happening to be honest, which is kind of insane. Even US senators are also asking for Google and more to remove X from their app stores because of this use of Grok undressing women and so on. So this is where Tim Sweeney, the CEO of Epic Games, comes in and where all of this originates from. Tim Sweeney would first speak on this topic by retweeting that article about US senators and Grok, and he would say this: reason number 42 for open platforms to shut down every politician's incessant demands to all gatekeepers to censor all of their political opponents. So to ensure there's no way anyone can misunderstand what Tim Sweeney is saying here, he flat out states the reason why these senators, or in the case of the UK, want X gone is because of this angle with Grok undressing people against their will. Tim thinks these politicians are using this as a way to silence X because X allows for free speech. Now, whether you like X or not, hate Elon Musk or love him, the objective truth of the matter is that X does absolutely allow the world to see and speak on events in a mostly free speech zone. That just is the case. X still has rules, like you can't just be overtly racist or anything, although that does still get through, I know. But reasonably speaking, X has, as Elon Musk has claimed in the past, made the platform into the world's town square, so to speak. No matter what the conversation is or what part of the world you're in, X allows it to be spoken. This, of course, is imperfect, but it is what we have. And personally, I think it's very obvious without the free speech ways of X, things like elections or even movements like Gamergate 2, which completely changed how the game industry operated to a degree, was supplemented in large part by the very existence of X that cannot be denied. So I see where Tim Sweeney's coming from here. He believes everything must be open in terms of free speech because if any one side of any political argument or stance is censored over another, it would compromise the concept of free speech. We all know for years now that websites and countries have been working tirelessly to remove that very same free speech. Because ultimately that's kind of all you got in this world, let's be real. If you don't have your words and your ability to speak, you frankly have nothing. My channel exists because of my speech, so you watching this kind of proves my point already. But either way, silencing people you don't like is never the way to go. It just proves your stances suck, and the only way you can win in a sense is by not playing at all, which is pathetic if I'm being honest. And you can't even deny this either, since we have had official press releases like this where even Google has admitted that they were actually pressured by the Biden administration in the early 2020s to silence and censor any political speech that they deemed unfit to exist on so-called free speech platforms. As the first statement says there, the Biden administration pressured Google to censor Americans and remove content that did not violate YouTube's policies. That's about as plain as day as it gets, guys. They were absolutely censoring people because of big government, which is why with the new administration, they removed this because obviously blocking free speech is wrong. But these groups and politicians want your speech policed because then they can control you. For example, if you go to Britain right now, as soon as you get there, your X account will then be updated and you will be told if you can post anything that they deem offensive, and then you could be thrown in jail. It's kind of insane, isn't it? But that's why you should hope that your country never becomes like the UK, because they are quite literally a dystopian state, like it's V for Vendetta or something, but it's actually happening in real life. So that's what Tim Sweeney thinks. However, this all gets way worse because then PC Gamer decided to fan the flames and try to portray Tim Sweeney as being a, how do I put this? Someone who wants to see kids and such be, shown in images that aren't exactly legal via AI. This is the exact title for PC Gamer's article. Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney argues banning Twitter over its ability to AI generate lewd images of minors is just gatekeepers attempting to censor all of their political opponents. Tim Sweeney's second statement on this topic would then be used as an example to convey that he was in favor of child images, which says this: all major AIs have documented instances of going off the rails. All major AI companies make their best efforts to combat this. None are perfect. Politicians demanding gatekeepers selectively crush the one that's their political opponent's company is basic crony capitalism. So the users in the comments of Tim Sweeney's post on this, they were, all over the place. Some believed this meant that Tim was in favor of children being exploited via AI tools. Others saw it as Tim saying you have to take the good with the bad. None of it was really constructive, however, and as I said earlier in this video, I'm kind of just showing you what's happening and allowing you to come to your own conclusion here before I come to a conclusion myself. The point is that how Tim Sweeney portrayed his words have not exactly gone over well for really anybody, because now the CEO of stuff like Fortnite, which is, played by millions of children, kind of just got thrown into hot water since the guy who runs that operation just said that he believes that AI needs to be protected instead of children. So you can see how slippery this gets and how quickly it can happen too. One user would respond to Tim Sweeney saying that the use of Grok and other AI to make such images or say vulgar things is not a good thing, to which Tim would say, as you can see there, that he agrees with this user's claims. Tim then confirms that he believes that every AI has significant problems and that they are all by definition imperfect in design. But he also believes if the entire concept is in a sense censored, if you will, it won't benefit anyone but those who want more power over everyone else, like politicians he means. So you can probably see elements of where Tim is coming from, where you can kind of go, I see what he means, but then you can also see where his detractors are coming from too, who are saying this is all bad because it will mean that children are not being protected as much. It's complicated, like I said, right? The truth lies somewhere between both arguments, but it's a mess no matter how you really look at it. Some children protection groups like RAIN have called out Tim Sweeney, claiming that the fact that Grok and such can make images of children, whether they're synthetically made or not, that the technology should not be allowed to exist because it threatens the the well-being of kids. Now, since this big controversy has happened, which could affect Epic Games and Fortnite, some of the biggest names in the business due to association, things are getting weirder fast. The only real change, I guess, if you can even call it that, is X now doesn't allow just anyone to generate images of people or use Grok to now generate images per se without first being a blue check-marked user first. But in PC Gamer's opinion, as you can see here, this now only means that those who can pay for X, which means X gets paid, obviously, can now make these images. So PC Gamer means that X is pretty much profiting off of all of this, who are willing to pay pretty much to create such images in the first place. Which, as you know, very obviously another serious problem here, because it's now pulling more weight behind the idea that things need to be censored more and not less. You see what I mean when I said slippery slopes? You can't even take a step here without falling down, like it's a mess. Again, what do you think about this so far too? Let me know in the comments, of course, because this is kind of wild, I gotta be honest. Do you think that Tim Sweeney could get forced to resign from Epic Games and be left disgraced if he continues to defend this position further? Are people just missing the point? Let me know, but let's keep going on here because there's way more to cover. So Tim Sweeney would then reply to PC Gamer's article claiming that he is in favor of allowing children to be exploited. Uh-oh, I know, but here's what Tim said to it. This is a vile lie by PC Gamer. I criticized a government official for pressuring Apple and Google to block a speech app owned by their political opponent, deplatforming 500 million users on the pretense of stopping a small number of users from distributing disgusting content. So what we're going to see now is that PC Gamer is effectively trying to defame Tim Sweeney, as he would say, in order to, I would only assume, to cause him to get so much public blowback that he ends up being forced to resign or something else. Which, if that were to happen, it would be a major shakeup at Epic Games, since Tim has been the CEO there for a really long time. And according to Tim, as we saw earlier, he is very pro free speech and anti any political side, which is a good stance to have as a CEO of technology. Whether you like the guy or not, that is the truth. However, how this is all going down is making it hard for someone to defend him, because the message is muddied and people are now choosing sides. Again, the slippery slopes are returning, fellas. Then another CEO of another AI company named John Daniel Trask would respond to PC Gamer trying to defame Tim, where he would say this: "Many of us appreciate a voice as loud as yours speaking up on this issue, Tim. It's clear as day this is a power play." Tim would respond to John with, "It's almost as if there is some group chat somewhere that is used to plan who to attack with this ludicrous 'if you don't support banning X, you must be into bikini pics of Keir Starmer' narrative." One engineer named Josh would respond to Tim and then say this: "The way they twisted your words is absolutely insane. You said literally nothing of the sort, as they are claiming. Their framing of your words is effectively libel, which is grounds for a legitimate lawsuit." And as you can see, Tim says thank you, which is, not exactly a good position for PC Gamer either here, because Josh is technically somewhat right. What PC Gamer said about Tim Sweeney could technically be grounds for a lawsuit, because they are taking what the CEO said and then framing it in such a way that he wants more children, what images to come out, basically. But I think for anyone with like a sound brain in their skull listening to this video, it's becoming very clear that Tim's position isn't exactly what PC Gamer is saying per se. He doesn't want anyone to have power over everyone, himself included, because if they do, it will just lead to mass online censorship. However, let me extend where I think I stand in all of this too. In my opinion, I think allowing Grok to generate images of people in general, whether it's bikini pics or kids, to be something I don't really think it should be allowed to do. Now, I'm not saying that AI chatbots can't exist. No, I'm not saying that. But maybe the implementation of such technology is advancing to a point that is way too quickly happening, that it's clearly causing more issues than it is solutions. Yes, we can keep Grok and ChatGPT and so on, but maybe we don't allow these AI platforms the ability to generate ludicrous amounts of AI images, if that makes sense. Not until something can be figured out here where it could make sense and protect people, because in its current state, let's be honest, the use of such AI here is only going to be a problem more than anything else, specifically from a visual standpoint, or really information too. We don't need to ban AI in, for example, you asking Grok, "Hey, I need a list of, the top 10 best-selling games on revenue alone in this year." Or maybe being able to post something to ChatGPT and say, "In your opinion, who is in the right here?" or something else like that, But I don't think we gain anything from the existence of AI-generated images in the ways that it is existing right now. Never mind just the whole generative AI discussion with game development and whether that's ethical or not. My fear of AI has always been, what if someone takes, let's say, some prominent female content creator, or even Mr. Beast, right? And then they funnel that through AI and say, "Give me images of Mr. Beast doing illegal things," or "Give me images of this female creator in this specific position." Like, nothing can come from that being available to people, you know what I mean? Like, maybe that is censorship to a degree, but it feels as if in its current state, if the only alternative is to have like totally free use, and like that means all warts and all, we're definitely going to be witnessing some abominations getting made in the future. And with Tim and PC Gamer so far, is that grounds for a lawsuit? Apparently, a couple of hours ago, PC Gamer just flat out deleted this article from existence, which would entail that Tim did actually have grounds to sue them if he wanted to do that. But the article has since then been reinstated, so maybe PC Gamer altered their words on purpose to protect themselves in a legal sense. Although, if Tim was smart, he would probably have already archived the original version of the article, and he could then in theory close PC Gamer's doors for a lawsuit of defamation no matter what. However, I will say that while I understand Tim, the reality is that AI does need to be regulated to some degree to protect their users. Because once you shift the argument into abstract philosophy, which Tim Sweeney is doing here to a degree, this then means that you never have to answer the uncomfortable questions at hand, because you can then sweep all criticism under, well, all AI makes mistakes, which doesn't really help either. It would be like someone talking about car safety and how we need better protections, and then a car CEO says, well, car crash sometimes happen too. I mean, yes, but that's why we have seatbelts and airbags and safety regulations and recalls and more. When something causes harm, we don't just shrug and say, well, technology is hard, you know? You have to find ways to then safeguard it. Otherwise, we end up in a really nasty situation that can only really get worse. So while I understand where Tim is coming from, ultimately, the protection, so to speak, of lewd images of minors is not protected speech. It's not being edgy or really political. These practices are illegal in many jurisdictions and morally indefensible in all of them. Like, we can just agree on that, can we? So when Tim Sweeney frames this as censorship, he's not defending free speech per se, he's instead changing the subject. No one is saying ban AI completely. Well, some are, but not everybody. What they're really saying is if your platform demonstrably allows the creation and spreading of such content, you need accountability. It's not exactly authoritarianism, that's just responsibility. And we've seen this before too. They said that loot boxes weren't gambling until they were. Crunch wasn't really abuse until it was. Microtransactions, those aren't predatory until the players revolted against it. And then always online DRM, that's not anti-consumer until the server shut down, that is. So every time an industry leader insists, oh, you're just overreacting, you don't understand, this is the future. And every time the players are the ones that end up being right. Look, Tim Sweeney is a brilliant businessman. No one can deny that. The guy helped make Fortnite an Unreal Engine, which has made his company billions of dollars. But like a lot of industry executives, he's too close to the technology and the politics to see the human impact of it all. This isn't really about Republicans or Democrats. It's not about Elon Musk. It's not even really about Twitter. It's about lines that you don't cross, and that's kind of the point. Because just because you can cross a line doesn't mean that you should do it. You get what I'm saying? It's not necessarily like a free speech debate. It's more so a debate on just general safety. The reality is you're going to be hard-pressed to convince people that it's morally justifiable, that Grok should be allowed to make these child images or the bikini pics even. Because in any discussion where you somehow believe that to be the just reason, you come out the other end looking like a, well, you know what. What it ends up feeling like is when the industry leaders defend these platforms instead of their people, like Tim Sweeney is doing now, it instead reinforces the feeling that players don't matter anymore, or I guess just users in general, in terms of the conversation that's happening at hand. Like, when did protecting users become gatekeeping? When did accountability suddenly just become it's all censorship? This is the same mindset that tells you also that always online is good for you, that subscription models are always inevitable, that the ownership of games is outdated, that preservation of even older games, that doesn't matter. And now that same sort of mindset, so to speak, is now bleeding itself into the conversation of the ethical use of AI. And again, I don't hate AI. I don't care if you use it. I don't think AI should be banned across everything forever. It should be shot into space, never to be seen again. No, that's not the point that I'm making here. But it's like looking at nuclear energy, right? We can agree that nuclear energy is a good thing for the world. But we can also agree that having access to such energy needs safeguards, because not just anyone should be able to just waltz up to a nuclear reactor and like do whatever they want with it because, oh, you're suppressing me otherwise. Because 9 times out of 10, things will probably go very wrong there and it'll like explode. Now we all look like the ghouls from Fallout or something. The point is that it's not AI itself that is necessarily evil. Like, no tool is evil, right? It's always like the people or like the implications of what it can do. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. It's much like nuclear energy. They are dependent on what is accessible to the ordinary person. So it doesn't mean we need to censor AI, but we do need safeguards. I'm not talking about censorship because, again, I don't think Grok not being able to make an image out of a kid is necessarily censorship. It's just more so common sense. You know what I mean? Like, that's weird. It is weird. Can we agree that's weird? I also don't think the use of AI to create images or videos so easily is really a good positive for the world either. Mostly because it could lead to defaming content made to make people say or look like things they haven't done or are doing, you know? Like, if your wife or husband or boyfriend, girlfriend had like a video of you cheating and you never did that, like, that's defaming, you know what I mean? Like, that shouldn't exist. Let's be honest. Can we agree on that? Again, I know it's a complicated issue, but PC Gamer hasn't really helped their case much here because they kind of misquoted promoted Tim Sweeney either way. To, I guess, defame him in hopes that he will step down or something, it's a hit piece no matter how you look at it, it is. So let's just answer the question directly. Is Tim Sweeney right? Partially in theory. Yes, selective enforcement can be dangerous. Yes, politicians can abuse the regulations, but none of that excuses ignoring the real harm at stake here. And PC Gamer, they're closer to reality here because they're saying stop abstracting, deal with the problem at hand. Ultimately, you don't defend your way out of something like this because no matter what you do, it will still lead to further problems. What you should do instead is face it headlong and then you fix it before it gets worse. The story's not really about Tim Sweeney, okay? It's about an industry that keeps choosing ideology and tech worship and politics just over basic responsibility. And players see it. They always do. The gaming industry doesn't need more arguments. It needs more humility because every time it forgets who it serves in the first place, that trust breaks a little more every single time. And once that's gone, no amount of PR will then bring it back. And that's what we're seeing. And this tweet, which has 77,000 likes as this video, kind of proves my point, which also says this. Hello, Fortnite. Seeing your CEO defend graphic images of minors makes me feel incredibly unsafe to have my 4 children playing your game. I will not be buying any more battle passes or V-Bucks, and I will encourage other parents to keep their children away from your products. This is what I mean, right? Everyone is going to have an opinion on this no matter what. Some will say it's unethical, others will say it's the cost of progress. Either way, there is very clearly a conversation to be had here, and I wanted to ensure I made it very clear to everyone watching that I am not denouncing or attacking either side of this argument. Instead, all I tried to do, and hopefully do, is bring some common sense back to a conversation like this, where everyone is just at each other's throats 24/7 all the time. We need civil discussion, we do need free speech, but there has to be a better way when it comes to this use of AI, that's what I'm saying. Because if the be-all end-all answer here is too bad, just deal with it, that's how the escalation begins. I don't think we should tempt the loss of free speech because some people want the right to make baby images or just put women in bikinis, you know what I mean? Doesn't feel like a good hill to die on if you ask me, and this of course bleeds into video games aplenty since Tim Sweeney's comments and his position are quite literally integral and a part of so many video games out here right now, it would make me too long to list them all pretty much. What uses Unreal Engine? Pretty much everyone, okay? Some studios still use their own engines, I guess, but the vast majority are still using Unreal Engine. And if Tim continues down this path, like I said, it will just lead to a further boycott. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. And hopefully I explained myself properly here. It's a mess of a conversation, I know, but let's just be adults about this, okay? Have a nice day.